All right, so we are going to be going through tiers 6 through 4. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, go ahead and check out our video that we posted yesterday for about tiers 9 through 7. Joe, here we go.
Hike!
Starting with tier 6. I've got at number 20, I've got running back Zach Charbonnet. Really like Zach Charbonnet. I think he has the ability to be an all-purpose back. I think he's a little bit underrated in his receiving prowess. I wish he would have went somewhere different. I don't necessarily like that he's with Seattle. I think Pete Carroll tends to kind of ride the hot hand. So I'll be very curious to see how that all shakes out. But I do still like him as a running back. I do think it could be more of a 50-50 split, or like I said, it could be frustrating for managers because it could be a Zach Charbonnet game and then a Kenneth Walker game. But time will tell. Then at number 19, I got Dameon Pierce. I know you're going to disagree with me on, but I think a part of the reason why I have him there is a few reasons. One, his age. He's a younger running back. He was just a rookie last year. He's got 3 years remaining on his rookie contract. And then the other piece of it is who is he competing with for carries? He's really just got Devin Singletary, which, he's a good change of pace guy. But I think Pierce is still going to, really operate the load there. It'll be interesting. DeMeco Ryans will be a first-time head coach. Obviously San Francisco heavily relied on the run game. So it should be interesting to see with CJ Stroud as the rookie quarterback, which more than likely I would think he's going to start at some point during the year, maybe even week 1. So they're going to definitely rely on that running game to help CJ Stroud. Then number 18, I've got Rachaad White. He's definitely a darling, I would say, of the Dynasty community. I like Rachaad White, but I'm tempering my expectations on him. I think people are a little bit too high on him. I think he has the athletic ability. I think he has a good scenery to do well, but I'm not convinced that Baker can get him the ball. Or who knows what Kyle Trask is. That's my concern with him. I had to put him there because of just pure potential. But I don't even recall when Baker was the quarterback in Cleveland or even in Carolina. I remember last year, Joe, I ended up panicking and trading McCaffrey because it seemed like Baker just wasn't finding ways to get him the ball. So I'm just concerned overall, about Rachaad White, how productive he really can be. Then number 17, I've got DeAndre Swift. Now, I've been out on DeAndre Swift for quite some time. I don't like DeAndre Swift very much, but it's hard to deny his opportunity in Philadelphia. He replaces Miles Sanders. I know they brought in Rashad Penny, but the guy can't stay healthy. And then there are some out there that like Kenneth Gainwell, but I think we've already seen what Kenneth Gainwell does. He's a change of pace guy as well, more receiving, more of a receiving back. So I really like Swift. He's a dynamic player. The biggest problem with Swift is that he just can't stay on the field. He can't stay healthy. But he's very dynamic when he can stay on the field. I think Sirianni will know how to use him. Question with him will be, from a dynasty perspective, he'll be a free agent after the season. Does he stay with Philly? If he has a great season, what's his future hold? I probably would like him better if he stayed in Philly, versus going somewhere else. But, time will tell with him. And then the last running back I got in this tier for tier 6 is 16 is Tony Pollard. Now, I know I'm probably going to begin some tomatoes thrown at me for this take, but here's the thing when it comes to Pollard. I think we've got too much recency bias with Pollard. I know he had a great season last year. I believe he was 8 last year in PPR. He was a RB1. But I just am not convinced that he's a guy who's going to get a huge workload. I think he's a guy who is a good, solid, complementary back. I just don't know if he can handle a full workload. And especially, we had a previous video. We had Dr. Vignesh Torreswamy come on and talk about that he's not worried about him coming back, from that, broken tibia thing. So when it comes to Pollard, I do think it is going to take him a little bit. They might not just give him 20, 25 carries right from the start. I don't even think he would do that anyways. So it'll be interesting. We'll see. Maybe Zeke comes back. Maybe Zeke doesn't come back. Time will tell. But I just, in the end, I just am not as convinced as others that Pollard is going to just be this RB1 moving forward. Not to mention, I want to say he's 26 years old. So he's actually on the older side as well. But Joe, what are your thoughts on my tier 6?
Yeah, it's interesting, Steve. You're a little higher, I think, on Pierce than I would be. I'm a little concerned about him just because they didn't have the, highest amount of draft capital for him. So I just don't know how dedicated they're necessarily going to be on him. But I do think he's a talented back. I just don't know. I think he could get the full workload, this year. But do they bring in another back in a rookie draft next year, or bring in somebody else besides Singletary to compete with? But, I do think that he had a very good rookie season, and I could see why you potentially have him there. You're also, a bit higher on DeAndre Swift than I thought you would ever be, and probably higher than I would have him. I think I'd probably rather have, Charbonnet ahead of him, just because he's a rookie with, more years ahead of him than Swift is, like you mentioned. Who knows where he's going to be after this 1 year in Philly. I also don't know what his guaranteed workload is with Philly. I think Philly likes, Gainwell. They brought in Rashad Penny as well. I know like you said, he can't really stay in the field, but Swift can't really either. So I'm interested to see how that all shakes out. I'd probably have him lower, Charbonnet a little higher personally. And then Pollard, why don't you think he's going to not get 20 to 25 carries right off the bat? Because who else is going to steal carries from him at this point?
Here's the thing. Pollard, in his career, has never had over 200 carries. I'm not convinced that he will do it. They have Malik Davis. They drafted Deuce Vaughn. Maybe they bring in another complimentary running back. They signed Ronald Jones. Just because I hear you. I hear you, the laughter there, Ronald Jones. He might not even make the team. I'm just saying, no one saw Isaiah Pacheco coming out and stealing the show with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Just because these guys have the opportunity doesn't mean they'll maximize it. And that's my thing when it comes to Pollard. It's fool's. I would compare it to fool's gold. It looks really good. It looks like gold. I should buy it. But I think people are going to be fooled. Do I think he's going to still be good? Yes. I just think that there's going to be owners who overdraft and reach for him because they're expecting so much, or in dynasty leagues trying to trade the farm to get him and overpricing themselves to get him. And I think they're going to be disappointed because I don't think he's going to cash in the way they're expecting to, because Zeke's not there, so he's going to take off. We talked about this. We're not convinced. Mike McCarthy says he wants to run the football. I'm just not buying it. You bring in. Why do you bring in a guy like Brandon Cooks? That Brandon Cooks is only going to help in your passing offense with Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb, and they drafted Schoonmaker. So I don't know. That's my hesitation when it comes to Pollard. I could be wrong. That's my take.
Yeah, I don't. Why are you comparing passing options to Tony Pollard? That doesn't really.
What do you mean?
Well, you said they bring in Brandon Cooks. Why does that affect Tony Pollard?
Because I don't think they're going to run the football as much as they're saying. I think if you bring in a guy like Cooks, he's going to demand targets. It's going to be more of a passing-oriented offense. I don't see them purely relying on Pollard and him getting over. I don't believe he will get over 200 attempts next year. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, he might not. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you with his size, that he can't that he that type of workload probably doesn't help on his frame, and he might not be able to do it. But his explosiveness and plays in the passing game, that he will definitely make up for that.
So heading over to tier number 5. At 15, I've got running back Derrick Henry. I know they drafted Tyjae Spears, but I do think it's still the Henry show. There was rumblings about him possibly being traded. I don't think he's getting traded at this point. And, Vrabel, that's been the identity of their offense, is this ground and pound offense, centered on Derrick Henry. I don't see that changing. They haven't really revamp that offense very much at all. They're hoping that guys like Chigoziem Okonkwo and Treylon Burks take that next step. But other than that, they really haven't, rebranded that offense, if you will. And if they do decide to, have Will Levis come in, they're going to want to take the pressure off his shoulders and rely on Derrick Henry. So I think Derrick Henry is here to stay. I just question how much longer he's going to be relevant. And he's sort of an anomaly at his age and his volume to keep doing this, but he is a different type of running back. We don't see, behemoths at running back at his size. He's just dominating and just huge. You just don't see that every day. Then at 14, I've got Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb is a very interesting option for this specific season. With Kareem Hunt gone, maybe Jerome Ford. There've been rumblings that he was a rookie last year. I think they may use him and maybe replace Hunt, but I don't think he'll be Hunt-like. But when it comes to Chubb, my concern with him is I think he's another fool's gold to me, because that offense to me is shifting. I think it's going to be passing, or I see that face. It's going to be passing oriented. They are going to let Deshaun Watson throw 40-plus times a game every game. I think that they are changing the way that offense. It's not going to be – usually the offense ran through Chubb and ran through Hunt. I don't see it happening. I think they bring in Cedric Tillman. They've got Peoples-Jones. They go ahead and trade for Elijah Moore. They've got Amari Cooper. They've got Njoku. I mean, they've got weapons all over the place. I think now that Watson has had more time to understand the playbook, I think they're just going to let him rip it. And I think Chubb's still going to be good. I'm not saying he's still going to be in that RB1 conversation. I just don't think he's going to be as good as people are saying that he will end up being. Then the next guy I've got in this tier, number 13, is Austin Eckler. I don't really have much to say about him. I mean, he's a model of consistency over the past 2 years. I think he'll continue to do what he's been doing with LA. He's not going anywhere. He's a free agent next year. He's on the older side. He is a different type of back. He's more of a receiving back, so he may stay more relevant, in future years, because someone will bring him on and still have him as a pass-catching running back, whereas, when Nick Chubb, in a year or two, people might be like, okay, we're done with Nick Chubb. So, but I think Eckler is going to be a solid option this year, and then next year is going to be a big question mark. But Joe, what are your thoughts on my tier 5? I got some looks from you.
Yeah, well, just some of the comments. I don't know, like your fact that you're saying like these passing first offenses are potentially negatives for like guys like Nick Chubb or the RB, the starting running backs. I could make the case where potentially it could help them. Because if teams think you're going to pass most of the time, they're probably going to be sitting in nickel and lighter boxes, and it's almost easier to run the football out of those sets. You spread some teams out, and there's probably going to be more room for Nick Chubb to run. And I mean, he's been, one of the top guys in rushing yards over the past few years here, and he's a guy that's constantly getting overlooked and generally of value in your leagues. Especially if you're in like a PPR league, because he doesn't necessarily catch the ball. That's probably more so what Jerome Ford's area of expertise is going to be. But the guy still, gets decent amount of fantasy points just with his rushing game. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely agree that they're probably going to let Deshaun Watson air it out more, but I don't know if that's necessarily a negative, because probably for one of the first times in his career, he's not going to be, running against stacked boxes that much maybe.
I get that, but you and I definitely have a different running back philosophy. When it comes to running backs, the thing that matters to me is volume. I want volume. I want carries. I want targets, and I want an organization that is behind the running back. And honestly, I mean, it's a weird position, but other than maybe like a handful, any one of them could get replaced in a year's time. None of them I don't care the contract, whatever. Any of them could be replaced in a year's time. So that's what's concerning. So to me, I want to make sure that this person has longevity. And I think they're obviously committed to Chubb. The Browns are, as far as him being that running back. But I'm leery about how much he'll be involved in the offense.
Nah, he's still going to be involved in the offense. They're not going to not give the ball to Nick Chubb. That'd be just
No, they're going to give the ball to Nick Chubb. I'm just saying they may not get it. People see with like pearly eyes, like, oh, look, like Kareem Hunt's gone. Like, he's going to be amazing. I just don't think that it could end up being that way.
I guess time will tell. I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess.
So heading over to tier 4. At number 12, I've got Josh Jacobs. This is a drop for me. I like Jacobs a lot. And it's just funny. The year I was like, okay, I think I'm out, all of a sudden he ends up being the league's leading crusher. I don't like his situation in Vegas. I really don't. I don't like the holdout. I think he'll play. I don't think he's going to not play. But I think I'm trying to remember past examples, but I want to say for players who've held out basically to the last minute and then end up playing, it doesn't turn out well. So and the other thing is, where's he going to be after this? I don't see, after all this is said and done, I could definitely see the Raiders moving on from him next year, kind of discarding him, being like, thanks for your service, and then where does he go after that? He's really only had one dynamic season, and that was last year. So I like Jacobs a lot. I don't like his situation, and so I'm heavily concerned. But it's hard to deny what he did last year, and I like the talent. Then number 11, I've got Travis Etienne, which is also a drop, and you're going to disagree with me strongly on this. But again, I like volume. I like opportunities. You're going to say that Travis Etienne is going to be more preserved. He's going to maximize fewer opportunities and be more productive. They go ahead, they draft Tank Bigsby in the 3rd round. They bring in also Dearness Johnson as a free agent. They've got Calvin Ridley now on the offense, on top of already having Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, drafting Brenton Strange. They're really filling out that offense. At least I'm consistent. You can't say that, Joe. I'm consistent, and that as a result, I am concerned because I don't know if Etienne's he'll be involved. I just question how involved. And I don't think he's going to maximize as much on his opportunities as you and others think. So for me, that's why I have Etienne at 11. I mean, what have we really seen from Etienne? He was out for his entire rookie year, came in his 2nd year. He was good, but I would say he was somewhat disappointing. He was great. They traded James Robinson. We thought all of a sudden he was going to take the league by storm, and he dropped the ball. He didn't. He was getting phased out of the offense. For I can't even think of his name. The guy you had in your JaMychal Hasty. JaMychal Hasty. Yeah, it's like, I mean, this guy's a 1st round running back. You just why is JaMychal Hasty taking opportunities from you? But okay. Anyways, I'll rest my case. Number 10, I got Kenneth Walker. I had Kenneth Walker in tier 1, so this is a significant drop for me. But I wasn't a Kenneth Walker fan to begin with, and now you're drafting. I was reluctantly putting him in that tier 1 just because of how well he did in his rookie year and his age. I felt like I had to. Now Zach Charbonnet comes in. This completely changes my perspective. I already told you I had concerns about his workload, and now they go ahead and take Charbonnet. I like Charbonnet better than Walker. But it's hard for me to say that it would be too much for me to put. Just wouldn't be right for me to put Charbonnet ahead of Walker. We've seen what Walker's done. Walker's done good, but I have some concerns, and I really wouldn't be surprised if next year this time I say that I like Charbonnet better than Walker. But we have to still see his involvement in there. Walker was, obviously a great running back after Penny got injured. And then lastly, number 9, this might be somewhat of a shocker, but Javonte Williams is number 9. You could argue that what have we seen from Javonte Williams, and that is true. But he is on the younger side for a rookie. I want to say he's 23 years old. He's coming back from that gruesome injury. I don't expect him to be that great this year. But then he would have 2 years remaining with the Broncos. And I think that he's talented enough of a running back. I do think the Broncos are going to give him that opportunity. And that's what's important to me. Again, in my opinion, in any 1 year, the running back landscape can change. So to me, to say he's got 2 solid years of a commitment from a team says something. You could almost say 2.5 if he really progresses well. So I just think he's a really talented running back. And even the guys that they have in the Broncos right now, I mean, mainly P. Ryan's a stopgap. They haven't gotten anybody that could even if they got Dalvin Cook, it's a stopgap. There's nobody right now that I could see surpassing the workload from Javonte Williams. So, Joe, what are your thoughts on my tier 4?
Yeah, as much as you thought I was going to give you pushback for ETN, I don't necessarily have a problem with his spot at 11. I think with the landscape, I do have, as you mentioned, I do think he's better that Tank Bigsby is around, because what did you say when he was actually good? It's when he had, another guy along. Yeah, James Robinson was there and had him along with him, because he just doesn't have the frame and, the workload to get the heavy, amount of carries and the heavy workload that, you would be conserved with. So having another guy preserves his big playmaking ability, and I think it helps him. But we've talked about that too much. Now, Kenneth Walker, I think you're still a little low on him. I understand that Charbonnet is there, but that doesn't just mean that Seattle's just going to go ahead and give him the keys and he's going to surpass Walker. Walker's a very talented running back. I think he's at least, going to have the first and second downs, and maybe Charbonnet plays third downs in the, passing game. But like we've seen, with guys like, Chris Carson, and then they even took Rashad Penny in the first round, and Chris Carson, still was the guy and able to hold him off. So I'm definitely interested to see how Seattle works that running back room between Walker and Charbonnet and see what happens. But I don't think, Charbonnet just comes over and takes it from Walker. I think he's really got to show something in order to get that.
So that does it for our tiers 4 through 6. If you enjoyed this video, we do ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are a new channel. You can also follow us on Apple and Spotify podcasts if you prefer to listen. And go ahead and check out our previous video where we talked about tiers 9 through 7. And then tomorrow, we're going to be releasing tiers 1 through 3. You're not going to want to miss that. I've got definitely some hot takes, so you're going to want to hear that. But thank you so much for watching, and until next time.